Hello, everyone. I'm Don Pratt, host of a show here on Rogers TV where we give you a perspective of police in your community. Welcome to Policing York Region. Got a different spin this morning, and we're talking about governance of York Regional Police. And I have the great honor of chatting with Chair Virginia Hackson of the Police Services Board. Virginia, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, no, this is a great opportunity for me. I've, of course, as you know, I've always been partial to the Police Services Board. I attend where I can in those meetings, and it's a great opportunity for us to share with our viewers what is the Police Services Board. So this is your platform.
Yes, it is.
So you've been chair.
Yes,
of the Police Services Board.
Yes.
Prior to that, you were a member.
Yes, I was.
I believe we were chatting a little bit earlier on that you started your tenure there somewhere around 2012. So let's talk about the Police Services Board. First of all, who is the Police Services Board made up of?
The board's an independent body, separate and apart from the police, and many times people think that we are part of the police, and it's anything but that.
Right.
The makeup is appointed people who are on the board, very independent. So 3 are appointed by the province.
Okay.
People apply in advance, and when their vacancies come up, then they are selected, and our Police Services Board are then introduced to the people. So we have little to do with those 3 people from the province coming in.
Okay, so they're actually appointed by the province of Ontario.
They're appointed by the province, yes.
Interesting. And so how are the others appointed?
So and then there's one appointed by York Region.
Right.
And then there are 3 that are political. And so in the case now, there is the chair of the region, the mayor,
Mr. Emerson.
Yes, the mayor of Vaughan, Mayor Bevilacqua, and myself.
Right. Okay. So that makes up the political piece to it.
Yes.
Okay. And I just want to go back to what you said in your opening, that sometimes people confuse your entity with being police members. You're not police members. In fact, if you were to go onto, we're going to put up your webpage here shortly, but when you go onto your webpage under, how would I become a member, it's very clear that you cannot be a member of law enforcement. You can't be, if I recall right, you cannot be a justice of the peace, a judge, or a police officer. So that attests to, no, this is definitely a separate.
Yes, it is. Very much. Right? Very much so.
And it's good to know that, right? Because it's, basically you're getting, you've got public insight into the policing atmosphere, right? And
that's exactly what it's all about, to be very independent from the police force itself, and to have independent eyes and ears watching what is going on and making sure that it is good for our public.
Yeah, and it keeps things more transparent too, right?
For sure.
Like
yes,
it's not, like you wear a couple of different hats. So as your mayor of East Gwillimbury, transparency is a huge topic. And obviously, bringing that into the Police Services Board is paramount, isn't it?
Very much so.
We've all heard the, decisions being made behind closed doors. It's not the case.
We have a very public process. We meet once a month. We meet on a Wednesday. We meet at the Region of York offices in
17250 Yonge.
Yeah, in Newmarket, and start at 9 o'clock in the morning, and it is open to the public. The only time that it is closed would be for personnel issues or something of a security nature.
Yeah, things that can't otherwise be published anyways.
Certainly.
That's the same with I'm sure your town meetings as well. Like there's some things that you just simply don't air in public.
Yes, exactly.
Right? That only makes sense. Now, like we were saying that you've been in there since around 2012. What would an average tenure be for a member?
It really depends. I would say certainly in the elected people would be 8 to 10 years. The province, I have seen a 1-year tenure.
Yes. No, I have. Yeah, that's right.
And then I've seen 4 or 5, and we have 1 member now who is a provincial appointee, and he's 8 years. on, which is probably at the top of where he would be. However, they don't replace people. They don't remove people until they have a replacement. And so, depending on how many people are interviewed, selected, and are successful, then it's a matter of we see some shuffling going on at that time.
Yeah. So I know. I've been to many police services board meetings, and there's very seldom ever an empty chair around that board's table.
Yes. Well, the members take it very seriously.
Yeah, no, they do.
I know when I started in 2012, I did not have, I had an appreciation for the police service itself, but didn't really understand what the police services board did.
I remember actually having that conversation with you very early on, and probably in your first or second meeting, that you're in for a learning curve.
Very, very large learning curve, as a matter of fact. We do training 4 times a year, full days. Some of it is just general training, but other portions of it are what's trending and what's happening, both with our police services board, but right across Canada and even further. When you first start on the police services board, you have about 20 to 25 hours of training. That means going to different stations. Understanding specialized departments.
The specialized units, yeah.
For sure. You need to understand, sometimes there's acronyms that you don't understand.
So anyone that is familiar with York Regional Police, acronym is the big thing.
The big thing, yes.
It really is. Every committee or endeavor that I've ever been involved in is always shortened to those acronyms. So yeah, I can see that actually turning into your own little dictionary.
And that was probably my steepest learning curve when I first started. It was very interesting. Took lots of notes and tried to use them myself to make sure that it was proper. And but quite amazing when you think about everything from helicopters to dogs to marine unit. Just all these specialized ones. It's far away from a cruiser that goes down the street.
Oh, it is. No, it is, and I've had that learning curve as well. I mean, I've been volunteering with York since 2006, and during that time, I've had some fantastic opportunities. But the thing that I learned very early on is it's not just a cruiser rolling down the road. There's many facets, many avenues to policing, and it's I guess it comes back to now you've got to govern that and make sure that all the pieces are in the right place.
Absolutely, and I think one of the biggest things, because there's 3 elected officials on it, it is the police service is funded by York Regional governance and by our taxpayers right across the region.
Yes, yeah, and that is a substantial piece of our York Region budget.
It is the largest piece of York Region budget.
And it's but there again, I mean, policing is so important. I mean, obviously you can't do without it.
You can't do without it, and interesting when I put my other hat on as a mayor, it's the largest budget within the York region, but it's also, from a public perspective, the most demanding. The most questions I have about our communities is around policing.
Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. Because as we've referred to, you wear a couple of different hats, and I can see where some would be more hot buttons, hot topics than others, right? So some of the roles of the police services board then, what would if you were to sum it up, what would the role of the police services board be?
Well, that's
it's loaded, isn't it?
That's quite a question.
Well, I mean, I always portray it as they're that oversight. They're that body of people, as you referred, independent.
Yes.
But really, your roles and responsibilities are pretty huge.
They really are, and of course it's provincially mandated. I find that the meetings, our meetings are full day meetings,
Yes.
and as I said, training beyond that. So once a month for a meeting that would be probably 8 hours, 7 to 8 hours with preparation and et cetera. But I think the bigger part of the job for most members of the board are making sure that we are a part of what's going on a daily basis.
Yes.
And so it may be special events that are taking place. Last week, I had the honor of being at a long-term employee event, and absolutely amazing to see people that had been there 30 years with York Regional Police, and people that had been there 5 years, and the opportunity to talk to them and find out why they were there and why they've stayed, and the changes that they've made in their career path as the longer they've been there. I have the opportunity to attend graduations, and that's probably one of my favorite. When you see brand new recruits that are arriving, excited about the job, have just finished on Ontario Police College in Elmer, as well as our own training, and they arrive ready to go. Everywhere from probably 24, 25 years of age to well into their 40s. And for a lot of different reasons. They've either always wanted to do it, or they've been in a position, something's changed in their life, and the interest has arrived, and it's really exciting.
No, it really is. And on that note, like, I've been to a couple of the graduation ceremonies, and there's a lot of energy in the room. You're bringing new energy into the force. But on that note, Virginia, we're going to be right back. Folks, stay tuned. We'll be right back after this. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Policing York Region, and I'm sitting with Chair Virginia Hackson of the Police Services Board of York Region. And Virginia, we're talking about primarily the makeup of the Police Services Board, just to give people a perspective on just what is that, who is that, and as you said, there's some that are provincially appointed, there's some that are appointed by the region. So what are some of those capacities, and like how many people are we talking about sit on a board?
7 people.
7 in total?
7 in total.
Okay.
Yes.
So you have, what's that makeup out of those 7 people?
There are 3 that are appointed by the province, 1 that's appointed by the region, and 3 political appointments from the region.
Okay, so out of the 7, yourself as chair, and then there's a vice chair?
Yes, there is.
And then there's equal members?
Yes.
And then, of course, everyone just works together. So just before we went on a break, you had mentioned about it's mandated by the province. So this isn't unique.
Not at all.
This is the way of doing policing business in Ontario.
Every police services board in the province, every police service in the province has a police services board.
Gotcha, okay. And of course, you must all work together on.
We do. There is an organization of the police services boards across the province that meet on governance issues on a regular basis and share a lot of information as well.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, so like I say, we're not reinventing anything. This is a mandate.
Yes.
And one thing that, you know, when we refer to this is a provincial mandate that I always like to refer to is it's the same with the business plan and the budgeting.
Yes, it is.
These are provincial mandates that must be done.
Yes, it is.
I believe I believe it's every 3 years for the business plan.
Yes, it is.
That they put it together. So please correct me if I'm wrong, because I have an outsider's view of it. I don't necessarily know the inside, but my impression is that York Regional Police and the members thereof create that plan.
Yes.
But then it has to come to the Police Services Board for approval.
Yes, it does.
And you'll send it back with, okay, we might like this, but I'm not so sure about that.
maybe we're light on this part, or we're heavy here. Can we find some middle ground along the way? What it does for the board is in a 3-year plan, give the board an opportunity to take a look at what our service are looking at as trending.
Yes.
And many times that's our first opportunity to say that policing is changing, and here's some of the things that our board should be well aware of, and in time we're going to have to adjust our budgeting accordingly for it.
Yeah, and you're right. You actually kind of hit on a point there, was the change in trends. I mean, change happens all the time. And it's these folks that have to keep up with those trends. If not, actually try and stay ahead of those trends. And I can tell you that one thing that I'm very fortunate with is through this show, is I get to see that. Like every month I get to actually talk to people that are moving forward. And it's very clear from where I sit that York Regional Police is a looking forward operation.
Very, very much so. I may be a little biased, but I believe that it's one of the leading police forces across Canada.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I've heard the executive command team. We have, we're very fortunate that we have a wonderful relationship with all 4 members. They're fully supportive of not just our roles in the community, like as volunteers and as leaders in the volunteer capacity, but certainly of this show, because this is promoting positive policing in your community. So I get a tremendous amount of support. I've heard all of them speaking, and they always maintain the same thing, that York Region is one of the safest communities in all of Canada.
Yes, yes.
That's testament to the force itself.
Yes, it is.
Right? So as far as, we're talking about the ECT, the Executive Command Team, starting with Chief Eric Jolliffe and Deputy Tom Creek and Deputy Andre Crawford, who've all been in those capacities for some time now. There was some new news on the deputy side. There was.
Very recently, the decision of our board was to hire a 3rd deputy, which has never happened in York Region. However, it does happen in other municipalities, and Robertson Rouse was selected, and what a wonderful addition to our team.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And it's, we go back to, and it's testament to how much York Regional Police has grown. I couldn't quote the numbers, but I believe it's sitting somewhere around the 2,600
Very
member
close
range.
to that, yes.
That's a lot of people to manage.
It certainly is, and having a 3rd person, I think it equals it out. We know, looking down the road, that we're going to be growing again as people move into York Region. It's a place of choice for people to move. We need to continue to make sure that it's safe, and more police officers will be hired on a go-forward basis.
Yeah, rewinding a little bit, so more police officers are going to be hired. We had a segment on the recruiting piece. And actually, we did a couple of different recruiting pieces, and the purpose of those was, at the time, now we've had a bit of time fall in between, but at the time, YRP was going to be hiring upwards of 300 personnel.
Yes.
Like that's huge.
It used to be that when I went to graduations, it was maybe 20 or 30.
Yes.
We had one in September that was 40. We're going to have one in January that's 50.
Wow.
And part of that is the growth of the community, but also, Don, keep in mind that we have officers that have been with us 25 and 30 years, and they're ready to retire.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it's a replacement of those officers. However, I often say that's not really the right phrase to use, because you cannot replace them.
No.
The amount of years that they have spent with YRP and the skill sets that they have going out the door.
Tremendous.
We're getting young people that are new and excited and very skilled and talented, but they're at the beginning of their career. So it really, it's such a change for us, and we will continue to have that for the next few years for sure.
Yeah, and it is going to happen. And, just even in recent times, we've watched some of the promotional process where, you've got to make way for for new energy,
Yes.
right? I mean, you're right. There's a lot of senior members that are, and hats off to them.
And
They've done it for over 30 years.
The interesting part in the new hire of the third deputy was we did not go outside of
Yes.
York Regional Police. We have a lot of talent within.
You do.
And
You most
so
certainly do.
we didn't advertise, and of course, our new deputy has been 30 years with York
Oh, I
Regional
didn't realize
Police.
he'd been that long. I knew he'd been around for a while.
Yes.
But I guess really when you look at all three, or all three of the deputies and the chief, I mean, you look at their combined experience with York Regional Police, there's a few years there.
Yes, yes. It's very comforting to know that.
No, it is. It is. And it's, when you bring in that, okay, so now you've added that third deputy forming the new team. Moving forward, hopefully it'll give the other guys a little bit more breathing room to better focus on their areas
For sure.
of expertise, right? So earlier we were talking about, and now too, we're talking about the hiring process. So of course, through the recruiting, like there's an application process, there's an interview, it's a lengthy process. But when we're talking about the executive command team, that more falls under your umbrella.
Yes, it does. Yes, deputies and chiefs are hired by the board.
Wow, so so it comes in from a whole different level.
It does.
Yet, again,
And I think that's why the training for the board is so important, to make sure that everyone on the board are up to speed. I sit on other boards and have been on other boards, and sometimes your training is your meetings in itself. But
Sure.
In this case, the trends and the law that governs the police act, we have to be very familiar with it on a continuous basis.
yeah. Even when you were mentioning that earlier, some training, and you openly admitted that when you got into it, this was a new endeavor. You knew that you had lots of learning to do, and when I think of that. I've been doing this for some 12 odd years, and I still feel like I'm learning something every day. So yeah, I don't think that goes away.
I don't think it goes away. Policing changes on a regular basis, and we need to be trained on a regular basis, just the same as our officers as well. We need to be right on top of it.
And so you hit on training. I suppose the Police Services Board has some insight into perhaps what training is more necessary for officers.
For sure, and as you know, we have a training facility now in York Region, and it's actually in my municipality.
Yes. Phenomenal.
State of the art,
yes.
Wonderful facility that we have training going 7 days a week in that facility now.
Wow.
Rather than have people come off the road,
Yes.
then we have weekends as well that not as full as during the week, but we use it 7 days a week.
No, and that's a phenomenal facility. We've had the opportunity of being down there a couple of times, and you're right, state of the art. But I mean, really, if you want good training, you need to have a good facility to do it in.
Absolutely. We had people, before it was built, we had people that were traveling to other facilities for specific training, and now we can have it all in our own community. It means that we're not losing officers out of town.
That's right.
If they should be needed, they're very close by.
Yeah, they're right there.
Yes.
Right, and there's something to be said for that, but trying to keep everything in your own community. I mean, for many different reasons, it just simply makes more sense, right?
Yes.
And to have it centralized. I mean, you're in a pretty centralized spot.
It's close to the 404, and people can really get anywhere with that highway now.
Oh yeah, no, that is our link to virtually everywhere else, right? And then we talk about facilities, and this is a conversation that goes on behind the scenes. Here is we talk about the facilities within York Regional Police. That's also something that falls under your umbrella.
Yes, it does.
Right, like as far as budgets and where are we going to spend the money, and
When do you replace a facility? When is it time to add a new facility? And it really works well when the three political people that are appointed to the board are well aware of the growth within York Region.
Yeah, so they've already kind of got their finger on that pulse.
Yes.
Right,
Yes.
so you're not kind of re-educating everybody around the table. You've already got, and you know, for yourself as a mayor of one of our local towns, you do see, you know where the growth is, and you can see where that growth is going to be.
Yes.
In you know, a year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, right?
Yes.
And you talk about you know, aging facilities. When do you replace them? There's some of those conversations around the table right now.
There are.
Right?
There are, for sure.
You know, maybe one day we'll have time for you to come back and we'll further our conversation, because we could go on for a long time.
Thank you. I'd love to.
Virginia, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Folks, that wraps up this episode of Policing York Region. Thanks so much for watching. Been great having you. Look forward to seeing you again.